feel like the color balance is off. I'm gonna change this shirt. I think it'll balance out the color a little better on this really gray day. Okay. Hey everyone, hi. Welcome back to my channel. I hope that this video comes together and sees the light of day because it's one of those videos that I'm going to film over the next couple of days. I'm going to explain the concept to you, but essentially I'm going to choose a book and read it over the next 5 days. There are extenuating circumstances as to why I'm doing this. I will get into all of that during the meat of the video. But, you know, before I jump in, I wanted to say hi, welcome if you are new, welcome back if you are not. I am Shelly, a passionate lover of books and reading. I read quite widely, I read quite eclectically, and this video you're going to see quite a bit of my collection and all of that. So yeah, if you are new here, then hi, and if you like this kind of thing, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Okay, here's the deal. Today is May 27th. It's a Saturday, and I have a little bit of extra time in my reading. I'm actually currently reading quite a bit. I'll show you all of that right now. BRB. I am currently reading Ethan Frome. I'm reading this with my friend George and my friend Fraser. I'm also almost done with St. Joan by Bernard Shaw, and I'm reading Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. But I think I have just enough time to finish one more book. And all of this is a bit time sensitive. Usually my reading is not time sensitive. It's very fluid and open, but my reading is just a little bit time sensitive due to the fact that I signed up for the BookTube prize, and hopefully if I'm chosen as a judge, I will be assigned 6 books that I must read over the next 2 months, and those months are June and July. But so I find out on June 1st whether I become a judge and what I am judging if I become a judge. So between now and June 1st, I have a couple of days, and I am really itching to read something otherworldly. So I have a whole bunch of books here, and I thought we could choose together. Now here are the parameters. I must be able to finish this book in a week or less, alongside Covenant of Water, Ethan Frome, and St. Joan. I also have Monday off because it is a holiday, and next week is my last week of teaching. So Friday is a half day, and so, you know, I don't mind if it bleeds a little bit into June, but I can't have it sucking up a bunch of time. And I'm a mood reader, so I try and choose things based off of, oh my gosh, here's Harry. Hi, baby. Hi. I totally lost where I was at. So I need to figure out a book that I can read quickly in the next couple of days alongside other reads, and I'm feeling like something otherworldly. So I'm going to read maybe the first paragraph in things that I feel like will work for this challenge. And I have quite a few books that would fit. And also I have a couple of books that I want to read because of read-alongs or book groups, and I might just try and squeeze that in right now at the end of May versus like starting it sometime in June or July. Let's get started. The first possible book is Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This is not otherworldly, but Sandy chose this for her book club pick, her 1001 book club pick. Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot picked this as her choice for June's pick for her book club pick. And I thought maybe I'll read it right now if I can read it quickly. Here is how it starts. Everyone had always said that John would be a preacher when he grew up, just like his father. It had been said so often that John, without ever thinking about it, had come to believe it himself. Not until the morning of his 14th birthday did he really begin to think about it. And by then, it was already too late. Okay, from what I remember, this has a lot of commentary about religion, and we see that in the first paragraph. I'm gonna actually say, I'm gonna try and read this later on in the month. I really don't want anything too heavy. I've been reading a lot of heavy reads lately, so I'm going to pass on this until later. We also have Marguerite Yourcenar with the Memoirs of Hadrian. This is a Classics and Company pick, and the hosts / co-hosts are they're all friends of mine. So we have Anne Novella, Micah Cummins, Jen from Remembered Reads, and Steve Donahue. And this is not a super thick novel. Now, I'm not sure, I feel like people have said this is very beautifully written, and sometimes that means it's a slower read. So let's see how this sounds at the very beginning. My dear Mark, today I went to see my physician, Hermogenes, who has just returned to the villa from a rather long journey in Asia. No food could be taken before the examination, so we had made the appointment in the early morning hours. I took off my cloak and tunic and lay down on a couch. I spare you details which would be as disagreeable to you as to me, the description of the body of a man who is growing old and is about to die of a dropsical heart. Interesting. Okay, so this is a maybe. This is a weak maybe, because I might want to read this later on. I don't know. It's an interesting beginning though, right? Tell me what you think. When I was picking up other worldly books, I was thinking 1984 by George Orwell, which I've never read. I'm gonna say this is a no. Not really wanting to read about Big Brother right now. My next couple choices are chunky reads, but I think are the most like, they're filling the vibe for me. They're mass market paperbacks, so maybe they'll read really quickly. And this is S.M. Sterling's Dies the Fire, which is about, the premise is like, what if all of a sudden, like a light switch, all technology just ceases to work, including guns and gunpowder. And so you're just in this sort of bizarre prehistoric world, or a world without technology suddenly. All right, we have a map. Love a good map. So it starts off Boise Municipal Airport in Idaho, Tuesday, March 17th, 1998. 6:15 p.m. MST, change -1 hour. Okay, so this is before the thing happens. Michael Havel pulled his battered 4x4 into the employee's parking lot, locked up, and swung his just-in-case gear out of the back, the strap of the pack over one shoulder and the gun case on the other. It was a raw, early spring Idaho afternoon with the temperature in the low 50s. The light had a cool, bleakly clear quality, as if you could cut yourself on the blue of the sky. Okay, I can just tell, as far as the writing right now, this could be a really quick read. The only thing is that it's like 570 pages, so I'd have to read like 100 pages a day in order to finish in 5-ish days. I don't know if that's doable for me, but a possibility. I'm going to put it in my possibilities, but kind of a weak possibility because of its length. The next one is David Brin's Startide Rising. I have no idea what this is about. So it starts off like this. Toshio, which is the chapter name, Toshio. Finns had been making several wisecracks about human beings for thousands of years. They had always found men terribly funny. The fact that humanity had meddled with their genes and taught them engineering hadn't done much to change their attitude. Finns were still smart Alex. Toshio watched the small instrument panel of his sea sled, pretending to check the depth gauge. The sled thrummed along at a constant 10 meters below the surface. There were no adjustments to be made, yet he concentrated on the panel as Kipiru swam alongside, undoubtedly to start another round of teasing. So it starts off quite light. The paragraphs are very, very short, very poppy. Again, I'm actually gonna, I don't know if I was gonna read something I would read that's sort of like mass market paperback, science fiction-y, otherworldly. I don't think I would pick this up. I would pick up Dies the Fire, but a cute start to a story. And then my other one is, that's kind of a massive, it's not nearly as long. Oh, it's actually just over 300 pages, which is a little more doable in 5 days or in a week than, alongside all these other reads, than Dies the Fire. But this is A Million Open Doors by John Barnes. And let's see how this starts. So it's just one. There's no chapter title. We were in Pert's Tavern up the hills above Pietu. It's one of those like sci-fi words made up. I'm like, Okay, let me start again. We were in Pert's Tavern up in the hills of New Pietu with the usual people, ostensibly planning to go backpacking in Terrust, and actually drinking on Emmeric's tab. The fire's due in a few weeks. We thought we might see the first herds of Auric de Mur migrating to the banks of the Great Polar River, beginning their 1,700 kilometer swim to the sea. Okay, so immediately we're doing some world building, and it's gonna be a little bit of decoding. I'm sure it's like, actually, I'm gonna try some more. Oh my gosh. Okay, immediately we're getting some spice too. She giggled when she realized they were staring and rubbed my thigh in a long stroke under the table. I thought we were talking about going backpacking to the South Pole, she said. You know, to see the Aurochs de Mur turn their legs to flippers or whatever it is they do. All right. I'm gonna say no for right now. I'm already doing like quite a bit of decoding with I don't even know what it's called now, with Covenant of Water, because it's set in India during the early 1900s, and there's a lot, he uses a lot of like different words. I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be getting something similar, even though Covenant of Water is a historical fiction book and this is a sci-fi book. We're just going to go with it, okay? Like, no, this is a no, all right? I'm turned off by the decoding, all the different words, all right? I'm just gonna say no. All right, I have Daughter of Time. This I'm supposed to be reading with Mark at Book Time with Elvis. I did read the beginning of this book during my book haul, and I am actually, because it's so short and it's a mystery, I am gonna text him and see if he can pick this up like today. If not, Mark, no worries. This will be the past for you. But I'm gonna text you and see if you want to read this like right now. But if you can't, I'm going to say it's a no. So I'm going to put the ball in his court. But I would definitely read this because it's about 200 pages. That means like 40 to 50 pages a day for, a couple of days. And I would be done with it. And it would just fit in with what I'm reading right now. So if Mark says yes, then this will be the book. Like I will be reading Daughter of Time, but I have to reach out to him first. So we'll see how that goes. I also have The Soul of an Octopus, which is not a sci-fi book, but it is otherworldly because it is talking about the consciousness of octopi. And so let's see how I think this could be like a pretty quick and easy read. It's a little over 200 pages, and I know it's supposed to be fast and fascinating. So this is by Cy Montgomery. I didn't say that. So this is Athena encountering the mind of a mollusk. On a rare warm day in mid-March, when the snow was melting into mud in New Hampshire, I traveled to Boston, where everyone was strolling along the harbor or sitting on benches licking ice cream cones. But I quit the blessed sunlight for the moist, dim sanctuary of the New England Aquarium. I had a date with a giant Pacific octopus. Okay, this is already getting me. I'm already like interested. A high possibility. I'm gonna actually... So if Mark, this is how I'm going to do it. If Mark says no to this, I'm going to start this. And then I'll have a backup, I think. Maybe I have these poems by Marianne Moore. It's called Observations. I did start it. Yeah, actually, this will be my backup. I'm just going to make that executive decision right now. So here we go. We have these 3 books that I'm going to be reading over the course of this video. One of these. I will come back and update you on which one was chosen. I got to reach out to Mark for this one. If not, I'm going to be reading Soul of an Octopus, and if all of a sudden I'm like, I can't do it, it's not interesting, I'm bored, then I'm going to pick up Observations by Marianne more. Other possibilities were The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, The Dog Stars by Peter Heller. I was really going with this idea that sci-fi fantasy was going to be my jam. So, but I also knew right away, like China Miéville's Perdido Street Station. It's a long book. I wasn't going to read that, within 5 days. Same thing with Priory of the Orange Tree and The Mists of Avalon. The Mists of Avalon is by Marion Zimmer Bradley. I had so many messages of y'all like saying, she got into some hot water controversy after her death that was real ugly, and not to read about her, but I had already read about her. Priory of the Orange Tree is by Samantha Shannon. And then I know that The Poppy of Wars by R.F. Kuang is a fantasy book, but it's pretty brutal. So I was kind of like, I don't know about that one. The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle was a possibility because it's short. It's actually, I think, a middle grade novel. I'm going to set this aside just in case any of my other books don't work out. Do you see what happens when I'm mood reading? I just have to like choose something. Otherwise, I just go off the rails like this. I also have Vita Nostra, but I know because it's quite philosophy based, I believe. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that heaviness. Similar with A Clockwork Orange, it has a lot of decoding, like a lot of words that mean other words, and you have to like figure it out, and that's part of the fun. But sometimes I don't find that very fun, so it's like hit or miss. Like I have to really be in the mood for that, and I think my mood right now is like no thanks. And then finally, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I have been meaning to read and I haven't yet, was also a possibility but not a strong contender. But I like what I've chosen, okay? Like I like that I've narrowed it down, and I'm proud with the narrowed down choices. Well, I did indeed reach out to Mark, and he graciously said that he could read Daughter of Time with me. This is by Josephine. It was published in 1951, I believe, although Josephine died in 1952, so it was right before her death this was published. And it's a mystery novel. It's a very slim mystery novel, and it is lauded as one of the best mysteries of all time. Now, here is the deal. I jumped into this, and there were a couple things I wish I would have known. I just wish I would have known before I jumped in. One of which is that this is the 5th book in her series, Josephine Tey's Inspector Alan Grant series, I think it's called. And so you kind of feel like you're walking in a tiny bit in the middle of the story. I haven't read any of her other books, and so the feeling I had was like, what is our main character's name? Some people call him Grant and some people call him Alan. So is his name Grant or is his name Alan? And it turns out that, he goes by both. And depending on his relationship with the person, it would depend on like what they call him. So more formal relationships, he is called Grant. In more intimate relationships, he's, called Alan. So there's that. And he seems to have a backstory with some of the characters, but I don't know what that is because I haven't read the other books in the series. So that's something that you might want to, at least know, or at least I would have liked to know before I jumped into this. But having been the 5th book in a series, you don't need to read the books, obviously, in order because I'm reading this and I'm loving it. So I am currently on page 110 of 206. And this story is about the Richard III. And I think if it's about whether or not he was a tyrant or not, like who was Richard III and how was he actually received, and it gets it's twisty. There's a lot of mystery to it. I kind of wouldn't think that, but there definitely is, and the way the mystery comes about is a lot different than I would have thought, and the whole thing is very clever. And I'm learning a lot about Richard III, who predates the Tudors just by a few years. And so the next sort of generation that takes over the English aristocracy is Henry Tudor and that whole drama fest. And so this is like set within the War of the Roses. However, you do not need to know, as like me, you do not need to know anything about the War of the Roses or anything like that. Like you just don't need to know, because even Inspector Grant admits that he doesn't know his history very well. And part of the mystery is unraveling the history. I like how that sounded, with Grant. Like the reader's doing it with Grant, the inspector. Anyhow, so I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I will come back around when I do my final thoughts, considering I did my read a chapter, mood reading moment, the clip before. I did that, I think, 3 days ago. And I'm, more than halfway through. I will finish in a couple days and I will wrap up this read with you all. And just know that a little over halfway through and I'm like, oh, this is so good. It's one of my top reads for the year. But as I've mentioned before, I've had an incredible reading year. And this is just contributing to it even more. This is fantastic. It is a few days later and I have finished Daughter of Time. Wow. Wow. So I don't remember what I actually told you all. Would have been helpful to at least look at that footage before I came and sat down. But I will say this. Wow, this is so good. I know I mentioned that this is the 5th book in a series, and ultimately that didn't really affect the experience with this read in the least. And what we are doing is that this detective or police worker person who the series is named after, which is Alan Grant, inspector. So he's an inspector from the Scotland Yard. He's laid up in bed and he, from some sort of accident, maybe that was in a previous book that I didn't read, and he is not really feeling very inspired to read any kind of fiction. There's like these bookish references. One of them was about Bernard Shaw, who I just read St. Joan by Bernard Shaw, so I was chuffed by that. So you get these kind of snooty opinions, and you get a sense of where Grant is at mentally, that he's in recovery and he's very limited to this space in the hospital, and he doesn't know what to do with his time. And so one of his friends, one of his visitors, says that he should maybe take on some sort of project for himself, to solve something in history, or to start thinking, just to do something with his time that he might find sort of valuable. And so what he ends up doing is he ends up thinking about the 2 boys in the tower, I believe it's referred to, which is a murder that went on during the sort of in between or around the time of King Henry VII, or King Richard III, and the Plantagenets. So it's like around the time of the transition of power, near the end of the War of the Roses and at the beginning of the Tudor time. And the big mystery is who killed the 2 boys in the tower? Who did it? How is it done? And so all of a sudden, our Inspector Grant is caught up in trying to solve this mystery that happened decades ago, and he's trying to get information and put it all together, and that process was riveting. Now, this is hailed as one of the best mysteries of all time, and I think it's this. There is this sense of modernness. There's these modern mystery techniques and looking at information and puzzling things out. It's very much that, like the modern detective novel, but instead it is being applied to a piece of history that is still indeed very much of a mystery. Oh, I was a poet and I didn't know it. And so there are a lot of names to follow. There is a family tree at the beginning of the book. And for someone like me, who doesn't know a ton about the Tudors or the period before the War of the Roses, the Plantagenets. I don't know much about that part of British history. And so I relied heavily on going back and looking at those family trees and seeing how everybody was connected. I didn't mind though, because Grant, our main character, says that he doesn't know much about that part of British history. And so it's kind of like you build this camaraderie as the reader with the main character, that you're diving in this together and that you're learning together. And ultimately Josephine Tay, through Grant, builds a really interesting case about what happened to the two boys in the tower. It's fascinating. It was riveting. Her writing was incredibly engaging. I read this, I am sure I've mentioned in every clip, with Mark at Book Time with Elvis, and he had just such wonderful things to say. He's far more knowledgeable about this time in history than I am, and he was just like a delight to talk to about this book. And then it's also such a wonderful experience when yourself, at least when I and my buddy reader are really jiving with a book. There's also like the connection you can bond when two people dislike a book, but we're not going down that rabbit trail. But he and I really were enjoying this book, and we're having a hard time putting it down. And so in a lot of ways, it was so lovely, you know, to just be in it with somebody and to share that joy in real time, or like as one is reading it, and going through the read. And so it was just so good. It was so good. And, you know, Josephine Tay, she has this whole series of mysteries. But I think, and I could see why this is the standout read, why this is the one that everyone talks about. Yeah, it was so good. So I would say that this is definitely for people who are looking for a different mystery. If you're like a mystery reader and you're like, I just need something different, I just need something that breaks the cycle of my normal routine, I would say this slim little work is perfect. I would also say if you're interested in diving into mystery, this is perfect. I would also say that if you're this is for everybody, I'll just say that. But if you're not a mystery reader, but you love historical fiction, you love history, you love the British royal family, or you like British history in particular, this would also be an excellent read for you, because it's just, I mean, it was so good. It was so good. And when I finished, there was a sense that I was like, I feel like I read the best book this year. But I tend to do that. You know, when I fall in love with a book, I fall hard. But it's hard to fault, because it was just such a engaging and lovely read. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling on, but I did want to give this, you know, a review and to tell you how this little reading project went. I also was able to just finish all of my sort of slotted reads, and I'm ready to go for my June TBR, which I will leave linked down below. It's a little bit different than my normal kind of TBRs. And yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.